All right, so hey there, YouTube. If you've followed our social media, you'll know that today we are celebrating the release of Justice or Just Me, The Fight, which is book two in Lorinda Hawkins Smith's Just Me trilogy. Yeah, give a clap for that. Yeah. So with what I'm gonna do real quick is so in December she had an author reading here for book one, and I just want to read a little passage from book one because with book two you'll see that some things don't change when it comes to like bureaucracy and all that. So I'm gonna go to the last chapter here real quick. hmm Reason I want to read this passage because I thought like this line here is clever. So, as my public pretender was telling me where to sign and what the conditions were and what everything meant, she said that this was a plea of no contest and that it couldn't be used against me in any future lawsuits. Upon my release, I was made aware of the restraining order that prohibited me from getting within 50 feet of his residence. But all of my stuff was there. Any violation will cause you to come back and serve the full sentence. I wasn't going to argue. They gave me a token in case I needed to take the bus somewhere. I didn't know where I was going to go. The police warned me if I screwed up in any way that I would be going to Twin Towers. Yeesh, yeah, yeah. So as you read further on in that final chapter book, she's just trying to pick up the pieces, and it kind of leaves off in a cliffhanger. That's what I said last time about this last chapter. And now we're at book two, where things are in the beginning. As you go along the book, it seems things are starting to improve and work well for Dominic. And then she gets to see her children here and there in the beginning of the book. But right now, because this is a release party and we have some special appearances, I am gonna call up Ashtoncynthia Clark to read, and I believe she's gonna be reading something special for us, right? Yes. hmm
So corny. Thank you for coming, everyone who's here live and in person, and everyone who's taking time out to view us on our YouTube channel, My Place Cafe Events. I'm Ashtoncynthia Clark, and I'm just so delighted and thankful that Lorinda asked me to be a part of this. And also thanks to Jesse, our host, who contacted me earlier on as well. When Jesse first told me about Lorinda's book and asked me if I wanted to do a reading, he let me know that the themes of Lorinda's work have revolved around abuse, in particular, abuse within a marriage relationship, and also in general, relationships gone bad. And he asked me to be sure that my reading, or to try to make my reading correlate with those themes. So Lorinda and I decided first I would read something from the 1619 Project, which was, oh, great. A history of Black people in America, starting from the landing in 1619 up until the present. A Pulitzer Prize award winning work that was first started by the New York Times and later has become a book. I'm going to be reading from, thank you, from chapter 2, which is entitled Race. And that chapter is written by, uh-oh, sorry, folks. I don't remember who it's written by. Shame on me. Please bear with me for just 1 second. Okay. This first story is, I'll give sort of a trigger warning on this one, although most everything in the book in the 1619 project is triggering in some form or fashion. Um, this passage deals with brutalization of a woman, of an enslaved woman. So if you need to do anything to prepare yourself, now's the time. Since Black women had no right to deny sex to their enslavers, they had no right to defend themselves against forced sex. Enslaved women who successfully fought off enslavers who tried to assault them were sold away from their families, gruesomely maimed, or executed. In 1850, within a year of his wife's death, a white Missouri farmer named Robert Newsom purchased a 14-year-old girl named Celia for the purpose of having sex with her. He raped Celia for the first time on the journey home from the sale. Newsom put Celia up in a tiny cabin on his farm and there continued to rape her repeatedly over the course of 5 years. Celia gave birth to at least one child resulting from Newsom's assaults. In the summer of 1855, Celia begged Newsom to stop because I'm sick and pregnant, and I warn you, I will resist your advances. She began to keep a large stick in the corner of her cabin to protect herself. When Newsom ignored her pleas and came to her cabin on the night of June 23rd, 1855, Celia clubbed him twice over the head with the stick, killing him. Celia confessed to Jefferson Jones, who was sent by white citizens to interview her in her prison cell to find out if she had any accomplices. She was tried for first-degree murder before a jury composed entirely of white men, and Jones testified for the prosecution. Now, Celia argued that she should be found not guilty under the state law of self-defense. An 1854 Missouri statute provided that women could defend themselves against any person who tried to take them by force, menace, or duress against their will with the intent to defile her. But the presiding judge instructed the jury that the law didn't apply to Celia, for Celia did not fall within the category of any woman. Instead, the judge considered Celia the chattel property of Newsom and therefore without any legal right to protect herself against him. The jury found Celia guilty of murdering Newsom. Now, the judge delayed her execution so she could give birth to her third child, which would become the property of the Newsom family. But the baby was stillborn. Celia's other two children were sold, and Celia was hanged on December 21st, 1855. That takes a lot out of me doing the reading. Just want to give us a second to pause for that. This next piece that I'm going to read is a piece that I wrote. I'm a storyteller and writer of memoir, and I've entitled this piece, Train Ride. The young colored girl was accustomed to riding the New York City subway with her mother back in the early 1960s. But that did mean she had to like it. If whatever they needed was not sold at the local Key Foods or Five and Dime, it meant leaving their West Side, Harlem adjacent neighborhood. A rolling 30-minute train ride uptown or downtown. Either way, it usually meant shopping for clothes. and she hated clothes shopping. Nothing in the children's department ever fit or felt good. Embarrassment and shyness caused her to nod her head, yes, to whatever garment easily zipped or buttoned, just so they could get out of those fitting rooms with the multiple mirrors that stared at her like front, back, right, and left sets of eyes. On the way home, mother and daughter felt lucky to find adjacent spots at one of the vertical poles anchored floor to ceiling in the packed subway car. Now, the alternative, grabbing the straps hanging above seated passengers, would have been an awkward stretch for the 5'1" mother and impossible for the child. Besides, strap hanging meant that you were knee to knee with the person sitting in front of you and in the precarious position of tumbling into their lap if the train jerked. It was an icy winter outdoors, so most riders were grateful for the warm car. But for the little girl, it only triggered more discomfort. She wished she could throw off the too snug red corduroy jacket with beige piping, which made her body resemble the bursting skin on an overripened pomegranate, hence the shopping trip. She had also too quickly outgrown the double knit leggings, which overheated and itched every turn on her early maturing frame, more itchy than usual. It was then that she noticed the man grinning down at her. Swaying with the movement of the train, he stood directly opposite her, his visible hand gripping the communal pole. Very tall and skinny, with a skinny blonde mustache, too, and a brown hat like Yogi Bear's in the cartoons. It's called a pork pie hat, she had learned. Was it embarrassment and shock that caused the girl to simply freeze when the man's fingers crept across her inner thigh, then began to scratch at her privates over her leggings? Was she too afraid of accusing the wrong man? It could be an easy mistake to make in the packed train car. She didn't dare look down to identify the snaking fingers or look up to challenge his eyes. Or was she too ashamed to cry out? After all, whose fault was it that she was a big child, stuffed into too tight clothes and often mistaken for older than her 9 years? But even though she was deliberately glancing away, she could tell that he was staring at her face and continuing to grin nastily as he was. A moment later, without a word, the mother threw herself between her daughter's body and the molester's hand. The woman must have just spotted the long, pale fingers creeping. Almost simultaneously, the train jerked to a stop and the criminal quickly exited. "Are you all right?" Mommy whispered to me, her face painfully drawn with alarm and concern. I nodded a silent yes. We never spoke another word about it. I had long forgotten about this incident, but as it began to surface, I hated my child self for being so stupid, too chicken to scream. I somehow felt complicit in the crime. And I wanted to ask, Mommy, why didn't you notice the groper sooner? And why didn't you talk with me about the trauma of that train ride? But instead, I dreamt of an unknown woman who would have been Mommy's great grandmother's grandmother. She was possibly the last in our maternal line to bear a daughter while still enslaved in Jamaica. And that daughter was no doubt ripped from her bosom and sold away or otherwise separated. I grieved that my ancestor would not have been present or allowed to protect her child in any way, the way my mother protected me. And even now in our society, there lingers some perverted tolerance of a man's sexual violations, especially when he asserts a power relationship over a woman. So much so that many women are still afraid or misguided to defend themselves, or even sadder, to defend their children. But I dream of the pride that swells in the forever soul of my great ancestor as she watches over me and my mother. And I love you so much, Mommy, for your bravery. Thank you.
Ashton, as always, wonderful, wonderful, just oratory, like just how you tell your story is just so amazing and so vivid. Leaves me breathless like every time, like especially like with the first piece right there, like that was oh man. And I'm hoping everyone here enjoys that. And we're gonna get moving, but real quick, please feel free to get yourself some like beverages that are in this little cooler section if you want throughout the event. Um, what I'm gonna do real quick here before I go on and announce the next featured reader is let me see. So, what I like that Lorinda did in book 2 in her acknowledgement section, I'm actually gonna read that section real quick because I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah, and I'm very like endearing. So I'm gonna go pull that up real quick. Let's see, come on, Kindle, work, work, work. So in the acknowledgement section, she acknowledges Oprah Winfrey, and I'm gonna actually read this little like paragraph here because I did see that I got a couple like mentions like on social media by other people. Oprah Winfrey, when she first came on the scene with her talk show, my world was changed. Somehow I could emulate. Her show was also a time of bonding with my precious mother. Before Miss Winfrey, no one could say I looked like anyone on TV. After Miss Winfrey, it would be rare I would be compared to anyone else. I would even play her in college. So imagine the honor I had in being her stand in for the You Can't See Me series. I finally got a chance to meet her, and meet her. But because I was wearing a mask, she heard my name as Miranda. And because she's Oprah, I didn't correct her. I was Miranda for the rest of the shoot. Yeah. So I found that like very endearing because it relates to like whenever I run into celebrities randomly. So the next reader that we're gonna have here, I actually met at Jackie Robinson Recreation Center like back in late July. And please give a welcome to Diamond Machabie.
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. Wow. All right, so I'm gonna pick a section hopefully so that I'm not caught up looking at myself. All right. The first poem is kind of about my childhood, so it doesn't really focus on domestic violence, but more so like neglect and things of that nature. So let me pull it up. All right, but I'm sorry, I need some water. You want me to scoot closer? Real close. I'm gonna leave it open. All right. All right. It doesn't have a title. I don't really title mine. It's like very rare unless when I'm reading it, I feel something and then I'll go ahead and do it. So maybe it will have a title in the future, but as of now, it does not. I wish I knew more. I wish I knew then. All the tears flooding my eyes, I couldn't see a future in them. I wanted to die. They signed me up for therapy. I wanted to live with you, not strangers for eternity. Internally, I was stunned, and all trust was broken. Child protective services, but I didn't feel protected, just open, vulnerable, down to the bone. But I was fully clothed. One moment in my life that stripped my soul. Now thinking back, I should have never told. If I knew this would be my fate, I would have kept my mouth closed. I didn't know I'd be taken away from home and those that I love. I would have endured the touching. I would have lived with the pain. I wasn't prepared for the flood. I wasn't prepared for the rain. I just wanted some help. Shit, we all needed it bad, for better or for worse. Um, we were all down bad. If anyone needed therapy, it was the ones talking and telling me what to do that was good for me when I just needed some options. I was a closed book, and they were in being and shopping, but they kept trying to open me forcefully, psychologically, doing to me what my predator did. That's how I got here, right? But unless I knew him, right, wrong. But now I'm displaced. I feel like I'm taking on the world every second of the day. Every second I would pray, but no one ever answered. I felt like running away, but there was nowhere to go. Improperly cared for, but now I'm all alone. What did I do for all of this to happen to me? I thought I was the problem, but all along it was them and not me. So that was This next one is very short to try to tie everything together. My heart has evolved into a cast iron skillet. I no longer seek love where it once was, for I know where love lives, the well will never run dry. That's and then another one, I guess this is like about domestic violence. Um, I want your love, and you give me everything but that. I want to lay on your chest with your arms around me, but when I'm in your grasp, you're stiff. Okay. Rewind. Okay, so we're gonna start this one from the top. All right. Um, I want your love, and you give me everything but that. I want to lay on your chest with your arms around me, but when I'm in your grasp, you're stiff. I'm laying on a carcass of empty love letters, an idle love. I'm suffocated with thoughts of how you must hate me. I want your affection, but I do not feel safe. You're here, but you are not present. But you are here, so you must love me, at least a little bit. Hoping you haven't given up on me while simultaneously giving up on myself. There must be something we're working towards. We both can't be wasting each other's time. It seems that our wants and needs do not align, because every time I push for a new love, you vouch for the same love. The, uh, the keep me tame love. I just want the same love. I've been here so many times. Am I insane, love? That's how you make me feel. You try and take all of me in exchange for the potential you saw in me when you first met me. I did not have an identity. So you thought you'd give me one. You'd be my creator and pick and choose when I'm necessary in your life. Build me up to break me down and remind me that I was nothing when you met me. If I just do what you say, maybe someone would have kept me. Because why are you even talking to me again? You can, blah, blah, blah. You can get anyone you want, and I should be grateful that you accept me. Not for who I am, but for who you could make me. The honeymoon phase left me unguarded enough for you to shake me. And now that we're together, I feel like we're further apart. I feel inadequate. How can I be better to play my part? Having wine over dinner just for you to berate me. All I could think of, how did I allow myself to betray me? And acknowledgement is the first step to recovery, a newfound hope for me. Just like the day you noticed me. Thank God I was able to notice myself too. Thanks. And so here's the final one, and it's just, I guess, questionable love. Is love becoming one with the person? Is it knowing their favorite song? Ordering food on the way home without calling because you already know what they want? Is it being the most hated in-law but still showing up for every family event? Is it you do for me what I do for you? Or is it feeling each other, or blah, blah, I must rewind that too. Yeah. Uh, is it being the most hated in-law but showing up to every family event? Is it you do for me what I do for you, or is it filling each other's voids that lie within? Is it finishing each other's sentences or giving each other life sentences? Saying you're the one that will always be the only one? Is it committing so much that when conversations start to getting too loud, you continue even after the neighbors stop to check by? You throw a dish, someone throws a fist. It's just another day. It's saying you love them, then wishing death on them all in the same day. I think love is irrational, unforgiving, and a part of a death wish. Because when they show you they hate you, that love feeling just doesn't go away quick. It will stick around, making you stick around for situations that are no good. You mean they have a restraining order against you, but you still stop by to make sure that they're good? They say they love you and still turn around and beat you, but I guess that's the drum that your love beats to. A familiar face and a familiar taste. It becomes what you're used to. You mean to tell me you want to leave after 6 years after all the shit that we've been through? You lost friends, you lost money, you lost family too. You lost your job, you lost your mind, you lost your kids' trust too. See, love is a drug, and anything outside of moderation is no good. You say you invested 6 years, but did the fruits of your labor yield any good? What about the children? What about the wedding? What about the shopping, the sex, the vacations too? What about the screaming, the cheating? What about the way they made you feel too? You know this life is no good. Your family holds on tight to you, not knowing all that it takes for you to hold on tight to them. You fight for them every second of the day, and trapped in a relationship that has you rotting from the inside out. You're telling me, excuse me, you tell them you're in love even though you're not. You tell yourself you're in love even though you question it every day. 6 years doesn't have to mean 6 more years. Invest one day in yourself, and then you'll be on your way. And
Diamond, thank you so much for reading. That is so awesome. And I like what I like about how you read your poems is like that flow, and I can sense it like in some parts of like some of the poems you read that me and somebody else were talking about earlier that it's cool to do, and those are always fun because it's part lyrical and part like just telling is telling how it is, I guess. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do here real quick is let me see. I'm gonna go back to see what I was gonna say because I have notes of what I'm gonna say before I just go on and go on and go on. That's how I keep myself in track sometimes. So Ashton, who read earlier, I told her like about less than 2 months ago when book two like came out. Like when I first saw her introduction and found out that she wrote it, I was like, wow. And also, I even told her straight out that it really conveys like her honesty and hesitancy, and it's just something that like I could just feel like how it felt for her, and that's what I loved about it. About that introduction. So if you guys get a chance to read the introduction of Justice or Just Me book two, forward. Yeah, please check it out. Yeah. Are you gonna come back? Okay, awesome. So please welcome back Ashtoncynthia Clark.
Congratulations, Linda. So yes, I'll be reading the foreword to this lovely book, Justice or Just Me? The Fight. Book 2 by Lorinda Hawkins Smith. Forward. In my encore career as a memoir writer and storyteller, I was performing in up to 6 productions a month, sometimes 3 in a week, for the past 3 years. The COVID-19 pandemic only temporarily slowed my pace. Most of us in the storytelling community transitioned to shows on Zoom rather than in person. But for me, it all came to a halt when I was hospitalized at the end of August 2021 due to a critical illness. When I returned to living, I was in mourning over the passing of two of my most loved spiritual leaders, the South African anti-apartheid torchbearer, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and the father of mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh. On January 30th, 2022, I opened my first friend request following a long absence from social media from a stranger to me named Lorinda Hawkins Smith. Me. Hi, Lorinda. Thanks for friending me. Do you attend PC? That was my home church for several years. Her. Girl, yes. I saw all our mutual friends. Where do you go now? I'll admit it. I happily accepted the friend request, but ignored her question. I had not settled into a place of worship since leaving the church community, with whom I'd been intimately connected for 5 years. It had been too painful to continue there after the emotional humiliation from my ex-husband was revealed. Now, 6 months later, I was invited by an event host, Jesse, to be a featured speaker at the upcoming book release party for Justice or Just Me, The Fight, the second book in a trilogy series by Lorinda Hawkins Smith. The host suggested that the subject of my piece mirror the themes in Lorinda's book, overcoming terrible relationships or surviving domestic violence. Somebody somewhere needs to hear this. Lorinda and I met in real life the following month when I attended a poetry performance workshop at which she was a guest reader and judge. As she read a selection from her upcoming book, I was stunned by the parallels I heard between her story and my own. I too considered myself a survivor of emotional and psychological abuse by the husband I had made the egregious and ungodly mistake of idolizing. I had prepared for meeting Lorinda at this workshop by reading the first book in her series, The Bite, and was excited to share all that I had learned about her through Google. But Lorinda only wanted to hear about me. She was interested in my storytelling, my work with an NGO, non-government organization, and my spiritual journey. Her questions, just like the prose in her book, were straightforward but never abrasive, thought-provoking but not invasive. So when Lorinda asked me to write the foreword for this book, I was unsure at first. I mean, were my credentials strong enough? But as I began to read The Fight, and page after page was, to paraphrase Roberta Flack, singing my life with the author's words, I knew that this endeavor was no coincidence. This was a call to my soul. Somebody somewhere needs to hear this. Justice or Just Me, The Fight, picks up where book one left off. After a husband files charges, our main character, Dominique, has been arrested, restrained from entering her own home, and cut off from her still nursing daughter. We walk the painful journey with her as she uncovers the apparent bias of law enforcement and the court system against women who have suffered domestic abuse. Dominique is thankful for the friends and even in-laws who are placed in the right place at the right time to help her. Most central to this second book are Dominique's quest for a Bible-based church, her coming into her spiritual gifts, and her understanding that she can approach God directly. The author has lived through all of this. Justice or Just Me had its beginnings as a 10-minute monologue that Lorinda performed to student groups, recovery groups, and in theaters. While performing the piece, the author writes in the book, I was encouraged to finish it by making it a full-length show. I soon realized that this story was all too familiar for many women and some men. Their voices aren't heard, and their stories are often dismissed. As it was too long for just one performance, Lorinda eventually settled on a series of shows to match a series of books. As I read, I again recalled my conversation with Lorinda at the poetry workshop. By sharing her own experience, she offers suggestions and a way forward to those who suffered in destructive relationships. There's a passage in this book that I absolutely love, not one, but there. I'm going to talk about this one. The pastor of the Bible based fellowship that Dominique has begun attending abruptly interrupts his own message. Citing a totally unrelated Bible passage, he answers a question that had invaded Dominique's thoughts, but she had never voiced. After his digression, the pastor admits, okay, I don't know who that was for. As you turn the book's pages and each character is introduced or developed and incidents unfold in Dominique's life, the idea of coincidence is dashed. The author shows us how incredible it is that God will change your regularly scheduled program to show his love for you. As I stated before, somebody somewhere needs to hear this. One such somebody has been me. Justice or just me, the fight can be for you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Ashton. Thank you. That's awesome. All right. So, hoping you guys are enjoying yourselves here today and for this release party. Thank you for hanging out here to celebrate the release of book 2. And now for the woman of the hour, Lorinda Hawkins Smith.
Oh my goodness. It is so wonderful to see all your beautiful faces and handsome faces. Thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. Well, you know what? You get a car. You get a car. You all get a car. Well, I just actually want to do a special shout out for Diamond. Can you imagine? Can you believe that was her first time ever performing? Ever? Very awesome. And Diamond actually suggested that I do an excerpt from my one-woman show, The Bite, or some verses from it. So I feel like I don't want you to lose me. So I'm gonna do that. Okay. Yeah. Yes, come on in before I do it. Please, do we have any other chairs? Yes. I'm homeless. No, I never smoked crack. I'm childless. Yes, I want my babies back. I've been in jail. No, I've never robbed a store. People want to take from me, yet I'm very poor. The home I'm from was never broken. Peers I grew up with, all well spoken. I have my associate's degree. No, I'm not joking. This is a piece of my life. It's just a token. And that was the prologue for the Bite solo show. And I'm just going to share another piece from that show. It's called I Am. I am the tetherball tethered to the pole, alone in the field of weeds, stationary by the mound of cement foundation firmly embedded in the earth. I am the chocolatey flaky crunch of the Kit Kat Cat Kit, giving you a break as I break you off a piece of my Kit Kat bar. I am the snap, crackle, pop of my arm when I used it to break a slow lean, not fall, as my steel wheel roller skate stopped wheeling suddenly over. I am the Wiz soundtrack as Miss Wan sang about who and how to get to the wizard, and Dorothy as she sang about home and how do I get back, and Eveline because don't nobody bring me no bad news saying you can't win. I am the foothills of Altadena, a true Dina day, where the howls and screeches of coyotes sing songs to the wind whistling, owls hooting, and squirrels squirring. I am from the fire engine racing, sirens blaring up the street to save my mom, who was standing next to me, and my dad asking who they were looking for as they said my mom. Someone called and said there was an emergency for her as we all looked on in bewilderment. I am from the King's English, private schools, upper middle class, South Side Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, Barry Manilow, Lou Rawls, Dionne Warwick, Donna Summer, banking, ka-ching, teaching, what did I say? I am from Creek, not Cherokee, Irish that never smiled in pictures. Slave, Africa, oil, first Black Oklahoman, rich man, corned beef and cabbage on St. Patty's Day, Black Eyed Peas on New Year's Eve. I am only child, only voice, only emotion, only hearing, only feeling, only learning, only telling, only fearing God Almighty, only God, only one. I thought I always knew God. And that was I am. Thank you so much. Thank you. And now I have notes as to what I am sharing today. I think I'm going to start off with chapter 1. This chapter is called Salvation Anyone? And this piece is called The Key. It will start on page 21. I love Kindle. Say that again? Ah, thank you. This is Andrea. Yes, and very good. Okay, so this is the book, Justice or Just Me, The Fight, Book 2. It is available on Amazon or or my website if you would like it signed and sent to you. Or you can buy it off Amazon, find me, and I can sign it there. But either way, and I do have a few copies with me today. Woohoo! This excerpt, again, is in chapter 1. And I call it The Key. But the name of the chapter is Salvation Anyone. I couldn't get over how much wisdom. Whoops, I don't think that's it. My bad, sorry. Let me go back. I feel like Ashton looking for that. Oh wait, I was on the, still couldn't get over it. Okay, it says it's 21, so let me see. Bear with me. Thank you for your patience. I love Kindle though. Kindle is awesome. Okay, one more. Thank you. I needed that. And this is Andrea, my neighbor of so many years ago. She is such a good friend to me. Andrea, give her a hand. Okay. I still couldn't get it out of my head, the gall of that man keeping me out of my own house, making it so I couldn't go in at all. That's when I saw it, a key in my purse. It looks like he didn't get off after all. Well, I don't even know if it is a house key. I think I'll drive out there and see when he's at work. I ran this past Curtis and Leslie. They did not think it was a good idea. I was basically trying to do things in my own power. There was something about needing to wait on the Lord. They said, but you will make up your own mind. Well, my mind was made up. I was going. Something in me was making me hesitant. So I made up my mind to be very careful. There was always the fear that haunted me upon my release. The officer saying, if you mess up and violate the restraining order, you will go to jail and serve the whole sentence. Curtis even had said that if I were to go back to Neil, he sees in the spirit that I would end up in jail. That stayed with me. I got on the freeway and started to drive to Neil's. I saw a police car on the shoulder helping somebody. Okay. Then there was another one passing me. I saw another one pulling someone over. Okay, Lord, what are you telling me? I think I'm getting the hint. Okay, maybe I won't try it myself. I'll ask Mabel next door if she can try it, because I saw like 5 cop cars within 10 minutes. I think that's a sign. I drove all the way out there. I knew he would be at work. I checked to see if Mabel's car was there. I didn't see it. I rang her bell anyway. No answer. Okay, that's the first excerpt. Just gonna leave you hanging right there, just with that one. And that was Salvation Anyone, the first excerpt. Thank you. Okay, and this next one is going to be chapter 7. And chapter 7 is entitled Fast and Furious. 78. Love Kindle. Right. Chapter 7, Fast and Furious. I found another friend who lived near Neil who was in the group to remove no-cas. She agreed to let me have the overnight over her house. I gave Neil her address and her phone number. Shortly after giving him this information, I got a call from a friend of hers telling me she was changing her mind about helping me. They said, this guy Neil has some real problems. He's calling demanding that he be able to inspect her house. Well, the day came of the overnight and I planned to pick up Camille. Neil was also refusing to give me the information about her new babysitter and her new school. He kept lying, saying she didn't have a new babysitter and that she wasn't in school. Camille would, of course, tell me differently. Well, the judge ordered that I could have her for an overnight, and I was not going to miss another week. I went to his place and saw Camille playing with her new babysitter in the street. I told the lady I was there to pick Camille up. She said, Mr. M never said anything about it. I said, oh, he knows. I then collected my daughter and brought her back the next day. When I had her, I got calls demanding that I bring her back because he was not able to inspect the house, and so that meant I couldn't have her. I was determined to see her new school. One morning, I decided to follow Neil so I could see where her school was. Isaiah was with me, and we made sure before we did this that we sought the Lord. Isaiah, are you sure? He confirmed what I already felt in my spirit. There was no restraining order preventing me from this, and I had every right to know where and what school my daughter was going to. We parked in a place where he would not see us as he pulled out into the street, and we were off. He apparently got wise to us following him and turned off. I said, "Did you see that?" My son said, "Yes." I turned onto the street the Lord led me to turn on. He was there parked, hiding like a little coward. "Mom, the Lord says drive right up to the car." "Are you sure?" He must have thought he lost me. I drove right up to his car and we looked at each other eye to eye and he freaked. His eyes got really big and he took off driving recklessly with my daughter in the back seat. He had his foot all the way down on the gas pedal. We followed him to the best of our ability, but I was not going to risk my son's life like he was so willing to risk my daughter's life. Over what? Me finding out where my daughter is going to school? He took us on a wild goose chase. He cut across an area he was more familiar with than I was and was successful in shaking me. He is insane. Did you see that, Isaiah? Yep, Mom. Soon after, I got an ex parte order demanding I show up for court. I needed to explain why I disregarded the court order of him approving the house in order to have my daughter. And that was the second excerpt. Thank you so much. And I want to introduce my friend, Sarah. I knew her as Sharon. She is an amazing friend of mine and spiritual sister of mine. And she is featured in this next chapter, which is chapter 8, and it's called Leashless. She said I could use her real name, but in the chapter, she's Althea. Oh, thank you, Margot, for showing up. And Margot is in the Roby Playwright Lab, amazing playwright. Thank you, Margot. All right. Leashless. Chapter 8, Leashless. I started my bubble show business in 2005. I got the bubble license and registered it Effervesce Bubble Trouble. It was designed to encourage, empower, enlighten, and enable youth. I started at my son's school first for free. I developed my website and had business cards made up. I was on a roll. But my heart was more for doing the shows for disadvantaged youth than for rich kids' birthday parties. I would prefer to go to group homes. Before I started really rolling with it, I met a lady at church, and her name was Althea. It turned out her sister used to do my hair when I was young. I remembered seeing her as well. This lady, Althea, was highly anointed. When the Lord would use her to deliver a word, all she could see is bright light as he would deliver the word or message for this person. She said Jesus would use her eyes to look at the person he was talking to. Her hands would also tremble when the anointing would fall on her. She had a powerful gift of prophecy. She could discern the different types of spirits in people. She could tell if there was a jealous spirit, spirit of witchcraft, and or an anger spirit. She said when someone around her was a witch, it would smell like cats. I thought of when I first went out with Neil, how I thought he had cats, and he didn't. The Spirit of the Lord fell on her, and she prophesied to me about my future. She said I had books in my future. Not that I would be reading them, but I would be writing them. This was the first time I heard this. It bore witness in my spirit. She also saw that I would be getting new cars soon. She also saw me getting my kids back. One time praying with her, she got a vision of a dog. The leash was removed, but the dog was still afraid to go outside the vicinity of where the leash kept the dog. Althea liked dogs. She said that was me. I had been under restraining orders and been controlled for so long that if the Lord said to do something, I probably wouldn't do it out of fear. She was telling me, the Lord says you can trust him. Something about it being a new season for me. She was right. And that's that next excerpt. I'm trying not to give spoilers. I'm like trying not to ruin it. Chapter 9. This next excerpt is from chapter 9, I Love You More. And it's called The Clicker. Do you remember The Clicker?
Yes.
Oh, The Clicker. Okay. Page 104. Here we go. Okay. And again, this is in chapter 9, I Love You More. And the section, I'm calling it The Clicker. Before the trip to Cuernavaca, some interesting things started developing. My clicker didn't work for me to get into the parking area. This had happened before, but it just started working again. When I had told her about it the first time, Lucy, the landlord, told me to check the batteries, and if it wasn't the batteries, I could just pick another one up at Home Depot for $20. Is that really my job? I didn't have to pursue it. It just started working. This time was different. It wasn't working at all. I went to Osh, Orchard Supply Hardware, Home Depot, and some other hardware place to see if they had the same clicker. They didn't. I went ahead and bought what they had, but guess what? It didn't work. I returned it and got my money back. I called Lucy up and told her the problem. She said, no problem. If we can't get it to work, you can have mine. She said she'd let me know when she was coming over. Apparently, she decided to pick a Sunday. Of course, we were at church. She called that morning to say she would be over, and we weren't there to tell her we wouldn't. Now the weather was changing, and it was getting rainy. It would really help with unloading kids in the rain that you don't have to walk them from down the street to the apartment. It was crazy. What am I paying her for? I talked to her, and she said, I was there. Oh, I must have missed you because we were at church. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Then we got into the stupidest, nonsensical argument I think I've ever had. She said, just go to Home Depot and get one. I told her I tried and it didn't work. She said, you have to set the little clicks. Did you do that? It didn't work. Did you try Osh? They didn't know what I was talking about. That doesn't make sense. It's not really my job to do this, I told her. Then she said it wasn't her job either. What? Whose job was it? Part of the rent includes that I have access to this gated parking and storage area, and now you're telling me that's not true? Look, Dominique, I don't know what to tell you. I was there. Yes, and you were willing to give me yours. Yeah, well, it's my only one. I can't give it to you. But if I was here, you were going to give it to me? That doesn't make sense. She said, look, just go to Home Depot. She just kept saying the same thing over and over again till I just hung up out of exasperation. We weren't getting anywhere. That's when it was her goal to make my life hell until I was out of there. That was my last excerpt. Thank you so much. Anybody? Oh, you know what? I need to introduce Miss Zara Stinson. She is an author, a fellow author of Hide and Seek. I have her in my acknowledgement. She inspired me to write. The first book, The Bite, came out last summer. Hi, Tom. And before that, I was working a series of 9-to-5 jobs, and we were working at Green Dot. Oh, yeah, put it on blast. Green Dot, Green Dot. Yes, and I was just so encouraged when I just heard that she already had a book out, and literally it was like she was doing everything God was telling her to do, and I'm just like, well, I got a book in my spirit somewhere. But it's just amazing when God. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just actually going to read the acknowledgement portion where she is mentioned. Yeah, and since somebody already mentioned Oprah Winfrey, I might as well read the whole thing. Hi, Wendy! Yay! Hi, Wendy! Acknowledgements. Along the journey to publication and premiere, there are those that encourage and inspire. Whoopi Goldberg's one-woman show, The Spook Show, spoke to me on every level. What she's doing, that's what I want to do. It's achievable. I was tickled to learn that Japan loves her as much as I do, hearing that their large gospel music community comes from their love of Sister Act. Oprah Winfrey. When she first came on the scene with her talk show, my world was changed. Someone I could emulate. Her show was also a time of bonding with my precious mother. Before Ms. Winfrey, no one could say I looked like anyone on TV. After Ms. Winfrey, it would be rare I would be compared to anyone else. I would even play her in college. So imagine the honor I had in being her stand-in for the Me You Can't See series. I finally got the chance to meet her, but because I was wearing a mask, she heard my name as Miranda. And because she's Oprah, I didn't correct her. I was Miranda for the rest of the shoot. There are those in closer proximity showing it is achievable. Josanne Marie of Beautiful, Unashamed, and Unafraid. The powerful book was first an inspiring solo show I had the pleasure of witnessing. Zara Jamieson, that's her maiden name. She's now married. She's now a Stinson. She was a Jamieson. Okay, but I knew her Jamieson. Okay, so Zara Jamieson and her bold book, Hide and Seek. Yes. All the women from Stepping Stones and the entire River community, and Kimberly Clark Whitehead and Ayanna McCreary for your keen eyes and insightful editing suggestions. Thank you all. Those are my acknowledgements. Do I have time for one more piece? Yes. Okay. I wanted to share this piece. It's Bridget Biddy Mason is my shero. And if you don't know the story of Biddy Mason, I highly encourage you to Google her. She was an enslaved woman. Hey! She was an enslaved woman who won her freedom in court. And after that, she went on to be an entrepreneur, property owner. She was a midwife, medical assistant, and basically one of the pioneers of downtown LA. There is a pocket park dedicated to her in downtown LA, but it's hidden. It's in between Broadway and Spring near 3rd Street. So if you cross through, there's a wall that basically shows the timeline of her journey. And it's basically on the first plot of land she ever owned. She also was one of the founders of First AME Church in LA. A huge church. Yes, she donated land. She is my shiro, and when I present her places, I do a piece before I start telling her story. I also, if you do get a chance and you're in downtown LA, there is the Historical Portraits Project, and I'm honored to be able to portray Miss Biddy Mason on their video wall. Yeah, just very thankful.
Where is that located?
It's on 5th Street, Tom, downtown LA, Central Library.
Are you asking where the Central Library is or where the?
No,
Oh, the video wall itself?
Can I tell you, because it's just such a
Please.
unique story. So if you go down the escalator, you'll see this huge screen, and you probably think you're looking at photographs, but you're not. You're looking at live action, extremely slowed down. So if you look at it, oh, it's a photograph, and you look at something else. But if you stare at it for like 5 minutes, you'll see someone's pinky move a half inch. So that shows someone's Dolores Del Rio, someone's Pio Pico.
Yeah.
She is Bridget Biddy Mason, a live version, but you have to stare at it for 5 minutes to realize that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tom. So since Tom wasn't mic'd, I'll just summarize what he said. So yeah, so if you are going down the escalator, if you enter from 5th Street, you will see the large video wall. And it might look like people are in black and white, just frozen. And it might look like a picture. But if you stare at it long enough, you will see that it's actually live action. It's just really, really slowed down. And the technology they use is the same technology that astronauts use in space to take pictures of things. There's like a whole thing about it. If you Google the historical project, LAPL, it has a behind the scenes explanation of it. But yeah, I'm Bridget Biddy Mason, and if you look long enough, you'll see the movement of the wagon wheel, because she did a lot of walking. And you will maybe see cotton flying in the background. The director, my hat's off to that director. He did such a wonderful job. So this piece I'm about to read is called Air, and it was published in Cultural Daily in 2020 because it was inspired by George Floyd. Air. Air is H2O? No. Air is the breath of life. Life to give, not yours to take. Air is fresh. Air is free. Air is between you and me. Air. I need air. You need air. We need air. Air to breathe. Air to move. Air to live. Give me some air. Air on the side of air. To whom much is given, much is required. Air. This is the air I breathe. Give me some air. Take flight, take breath, take your own, don't take mine. Air. H2O, no. Help me to overcome. Air can be rare if you can't pay the fare with just one glare. Where is the air? Where? There? With just a pair of, with just a tear of the thought I can't bear of, who will care of, will they dare care my need for air? Is it fair? Where is the air? Don't just stare, don't just glare, give me air. Sell your wares in the lion's lair to overcome with my need for air to help me breathe. Help me breathe. Help me to overcome. H2O, no. Help me to live or leave me alone. Help me to breathe or leave me to die. Hear my cries, hear my pleas. Have to own up to the gifts we bear. The gift to breathe, the gift to live, the gift to hear, the gift to see. Can you hear me breathe? Can you see me choke? Can you care for the air I need? H2O, no. Not if the air you breathe is in my vicinity. Not if your need to breathe stops my divinity. Air if you must, air if you need. Air on the side of air. Air you can see, air you can touch. To some it matters, to others not much. Air to live, air to move. It's in you I live, move, and have my being, my spirit, my breath, my air. Breath of life, I give it back to you. Giver of life, giver of breath. It is yours to take, it is yours to give. The air I breathe is just for a moment. For what is a man but a vapor here today and tomorrow not? But it is you who value my breath. It is you who value my air. It is you who wants me to take up air, to take up space, to make space. Space is made, space is taken, space is given. Take up the space, take up the air. It was bought with a price and the price wasn't fair. Take up the space, take up the air. You were bought for a price and the price wasn't fair. My breath belongs to me alone. Who are you to take what I own? Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Just want to say, hey to Carson.
I'm so sorry, you're amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for making it. Thank you. They had an amazing exhibition, installation. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Lorenzo's a genius.
Oh, stop. You stop. Shut up.
I've been so proud to just be learning from her. I met her at Hollywood Print Festival doing her book Justice Part 1. Right. I was her mentor, but we soon found out I was the mentoree. And I have been on the journey of learning from her bravery, courage, and ability to see something and make it happen. And tell stories and reflect stories of our people. But also it just needs to be human, so it touches all people. Yeah. And so it is just a gift and honor to be in your light and to hear you and to hear that this air geek is like, so it's a gift, a reminder to be with self, but also within self to see other people and that we're lights, and you're the light. You give us so much back and I feel like I'm always here for you, so it's an honor from day one.
Wow. Thank you. That is too sweet. Thank you.
Our black people.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And for that, I'm going to bring up Jessie. Bring back up Jessie. Yes, Jessie. Woohoo!
Who you can also learn from just for her bravery and her just persistence of just trying to overcome like whatever obstacles come her way is Dominique. When you read Justice or Just Me, books 1 and now book 2. And I still can't wait for book 3 for next year. The final book of the trilogy to see like how it all accumulates. Yeah, the flight. Exactly. Sure. And oh yeah, you want to say? Go ahead. Oh yes, Diamond was amazing. Yes. Yes. No, thank you. And also, who was also inspiring and just like again, like I could just get chills. That's the best way I'm thinking about it right now. Is again with Ashton right here. Like also another amazing storyteller. Just some, and then again, really. Oh no! Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, someone's asking for an encore. Yeah.
I guess I'm supposed to share something.
Your story.
My story. Ah man, this is so off guard. So I'm gonna try to be quick and concise, so that I'm not up here rambling too much. I guess you could say I was born into kin gap, which is the foster care system, but when you're placed with your family. So I do not know my dad, and I barely know my mom. So I live with my aunt and my uncle there, where my sisters and I were taken advantage of by my uncle. So abruptly in third grade, I was basically, I don't know, I guess me and my siblings kind of stayed in the house for a while. My aunt got addicted to drugs, um, and we just kind of fended for ourselves until my mom's cousin heard what was going on, and then she took us. So then we moved again to Rolling Heights or something like that. All I know, by sixth grade, I think I went to six schools. So then I lived with her for a while, and then my sophomore year, my sister was living in the house too. But I always slept on the couch because I didn't like the cleanliness of the room. So I just slept on the couch, and I kept my stuff in a closet in the hallway at the apartment. One day, my sister was gonna move out, so I was about to get my own room. So I was about to move my stuff from the closet into the room, and they were like, "No, put it in the car." And then they dropped me off at CPS. So then I went to school that day, um, or whatever, and my whole life had changed. I was in a group home for a year, and then I was gonna move on my own. They had like a independent living program where I could get my own apartment as long as I had the grades and I had the letters of recommendation. So I went to my counselor to get a recommendation, but she always refused to write it. And then one day she finally agreed to write it. And while she was writing it, the principal of the high school came in and was asking her what she was working on. The next week, I had dinner with his family on a Wednesday night, and then it was decided I was going to move with them. So at the end of the summer, I moved with them. That was a bittersweet year of my life, so I won't touch upon that too much. So after that, I went to UC Riverside, played basketball there briefly. I was on the bench, but it was an experience. I got a ring. Then I was about to be homeless again, and so I rented a room from one of my friends' moms. Then I was having mental health concerns, and stuff, and wanted to commit suicide, all this stuff. So then I found Youth Moving On in Pasadena, and had some treatment there. Then I was invited to live in their transitional housing program. And then this wonderful lady right here was able to hire me for like my first quote unquote real job. And then then yeah, so and now I'm working full time and I make.
Where are you working?
Oh man, I was trying to block some of that. Union Station Homeless Services. Yeah,
My neighbor.
and that is.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So what I'm gonna do here with the live stream is I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up, but you guys can still stick around and mingle since this is still a release party. And thank you to those that are watching on YouTube. And next Saturday, if there will be music here, it will be Pepe Musinho performing from 11 a.m. So you can come on back to the cafe and check him out. Thanks so much.